How's it going, y'all? This is McFrostyBoy, and in this video, we're going to work on the topic of commitment during fights in Apex Legends. As it turns out, we actually mentioned this topic in one of our prior videos about defensive fundamentals. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's definitely worth watching for an overview of the defensive tools that can help you win more fights. Commitment on its own is such an important concept that I wanted to cover it in greater detail. I am so grateful to you all for your support and feedback. It makes my day to hear back from you all, and it's been so much fun seeing our little community grow. Once again, if you'd like to support me, please upvote the post on Reddit. It is my primary way of getting in front of new viewers and has a huge impact on how well my videos perform. Further instructions for how you can support the Frosty Friends community can be found below. Alright, with all of that out of the way, let's get started.
Oh, nice!
We're going to start by explaining the concept of commitment overall using an example from a third-party perspective. I personally define commitment to be actions that create significant disadvantages for you or your team if you decide to retreat from a given engagement. Often, this means taking a lot of damage, but particularly committal decisions can mean that deciding to disengage means sacrificing teammates. As we approach a multi-team fight in a state, you can see how these squads that are fighting in front of us are highly committed. They have reached such close range with one another that they can't fight anyone else, and if they try to retreat, the other squads will shoot them in the back. In comparison, our team is not committed to the same degree. If for some reason we decided that we don't want to take this fight, we can just turn around, hop over the wall, and leave without too much trouble. The difference in our levels of commitment is one of the reasons why third partying is so effective. You can see how the enemy squad's commitment to this fight has left the remaining survivors in a tough spot. They really need to heal, and short of a Wraith Portal or other creative use of legend abilities, it's really difficult for them to leave or reposition, which makes it much easier for me to punish the Bangalore and Octane to complete this engagement. The goal of this example is to help explain how commitment is defined as actions that put your squad at a disadvantage if you decide to retreat from a given engagement. In general, two squads become more committed as they get closer to one another to the point where neither can leave without killing the other. Our next example will focus on the idea of forcing commitment out of enemies. Typically, you want to force commitment out of your opponents when you've created a significant advantage like knocking an enemy or dealing big damage. In most cases, this means getting closer to the enemy squad, increasing the pressure for them to decide to commit to holding their position or abandoning a teammate. Initially, our squad is engaged with another squad across the buildings. This particular position makes it really hard for either of us to force commitment out of the other because the attacking squad also has to make a big commitment when closing distance through the low ground. Neither squad is really dealing enough damage to overcome these obstacles, and in the meantime, our squad gets third-partied. We lock down our position so that we can gauge where the enemy squads are before deciding if and how we should make a retreat. In this span of time, the enemy is able to use the element of surprise to inflict significant damage and begin their approach, forcing our squad to commit to healing or retreating. As Lifeline, I really do not have a good escape mechanism, and our Bloodhound also has the same problem on top of having only 75 remaining HP, so retreating would likely mean only Wraith would survive, greatly jeopardizing our odds of winning the game. You can again see how the enemy forces commitment out of me just by positioning nearby when I use Lifeline's revive ability on our Bloodhound. If I back up, then the enemy will be able to easily re-knock our Bloodhound and cut off my approach angle to re-tap them. My alternative is to try to hold the position even though there is limited cover and I'm weakened. While I managed to make it work, this situation was very difficult to handle and I had few options. It wouldn't have taken much for the enemy squad to be winning this fight instead of us. The main takeaway this time is that by moving closer and applying pressure, you can cut off options and force the enemy to commit to successively worse engagements until eventually it becomes impossible for them to mechanically overcome these disadvantages. In this example, we're going to figure out when to make key commitments. At the start of this fight, I lose a damage exchange and have to heal. After recovering my HP, I make a small commitment by taking a longer and more aggressive peek on the Octane. Even though it leaves me more exposed, I elect to make this commitment because the Octane is firing on my teammate. I step into cover to reload, and when I re-emerge from cover, I see that my other teammate is directly engaged in a highly committal, close-range gunfight on the low ground with the enemy horizon. I make a really big commitment by cutting across open ground, giving up height, and basically W-keying into the enemy horizon. I'm able to knock the horizon, and you can see how important my commitment was when you check the numbers. Our Lifeline had lost almost 170 HP, and I dealt almost 150 damage to the enemy horizon. If I had not prioritized speed over positioning, our Lifeline would be dead, and I'd be dealing with a 2v1 situation. You can see the cost of my prior commitment when the enemy Wraith attacks me from the high ground while I have very limited cover to work with and haven't had an opportunity to reload my weapons. The enemy Wraith makes my shots a lot easier by jumping a bunch, and the 2 knocked enemies wind up covering me and not their teammate, allowing me to reload and kill the enemy Wraith. It would have been exponentially harder to deal with this situation if the Wraith had effectively used her teammates as cover while using quick peeks with her Mastiff. The concept that we can learn here is that making commitments isn't inherently bad, but rather, it's important to be selective about when and why you make these commitments. In this fight, I made my biggest commitments in order to assist my teammates and compensate for their vulnerabilities. Our final example focuses on maintaining the option to decommit from an interaction so you can avoid losing situations. We start off by engaging an enemy squad and registering solid damage on the enemy Pathfinder's HP. I use this opening to probe the enemy position and determine whether we can safely approach using the ramp or zipline. I choose to use the ramp instead of the zipline to the left because I can still decommit with lower risk by b-hopping down the ramp as I prepare my void walk to get away if I find the enemy has a strong position. If I use the zipline, the cost of decommitting would be much higher and potentially impossible. Our team has a series of successful damage exchanges, knocking one enemy and breaking another.
There's still another squad though.
This is so annoying. You can see how even as I approach this advantageous situation, that I'm able to quickly and easily decommit from these damage exchanges by using the top of the box as cover and later the side of the stairs. As our team recovers and is engaged by a third party, we register solid damage on the enemy Bangalore. I use the boxes as a cover when I take up a forward position, increasing pressure and making it easier for me to peek until I feel we have a sufficient advantage to push. When our Horizon throws her Q, I'm forced to back up since there is no longer a piece of cover that I can use. As soon as I see that we're getting third-partied, I immediately begin a portal, hoping to help our Horizon decommit from this situation, but unfortunately, they committed to trading with the second enemy squad and were unable to use my portal. Ultimately, Gibraltar and I are able to escape, and had the Horizon play the box cover instead of pushing early, she would have been able to take advantage of the option to safely decommit using my portal. The pattern you can see in this example is how I control my level of commitment, using cover and positioning, making it so that I could decommit at any given moment, only making a hard commitment when I felt we had a decisive advantage. Well, that's it for this video. The ideal comms are unique to each squad and individual, and hopefully these examples can give you an idea of things you can try as you figure that out for yourself. At the end of the day, each individual will make different levels of commitment based on their playstyle, so I hope that these examples help you continue to refine your unique understanding of commitment. You can help your fellow Frosty friends by sharing what you've learned using the comments below. I want to help you all improve at Apex Legends, and I need your help to get this content to the rest of the community, so like, comment, subscribe, hop in the stream, join our Discord, and make sure today is your best day ever. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Let's go, I'll just do it all.